Okay, so good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic evening so far. So we are here live with the amazing and super legendary Leon Street. I'm so excited to be speaking with good Leon today because I know that he has got so much nuggets of wisdom to drop on you guys as well. I mean, how long have you been in marketing for, Leon?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. How long have I been in marketing? Too long. No, I've been doing marketing. I'll tell you when I actually started marketing. When I was 15 years old, that was 1995. That's when I actually started marketing, believe it or not, to the point where I was aware. I was probably marketing before that, like any good human being. But when I was 15,
Yeah,
that's 25 years ago.
that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I call myself a visionary marketing coach, and in a nutshell, I help business owners to create a simplified marketing strategy to attract more clients consistently online. That's the kind of simple layman's terms.
Okay.
Mhm. And so, there's obviously a lot of layers to that, and as I said, I've been doing marketing for some time, and I've had a lot of successes. I've had people who have taken my strategies or the coaching that I give business owners, implemented it, achieved their first sale for like £4,000, £5,000, and then I've got some of my top end clients where I've helped them to generate seven figures. I think the biggest client that I've helped so far in the shortest amount of time I helped one of my clients who generated $1.2 million in 4 months and 1 week. That was the fastest that I'd done. So that's the kind of results that I've helped my clients to achieve. But we can dig into as much or as little as the things that you want to find out about, Rahina.
Absolutely. I feel like I want to dig into it all.
Yeah. That's awesome. So just let me know where you want to start from. And obviously I'm here to share with your audience. If you need me to share the streams, I know you're broadcasting maybe on a few places. Just let me know. Are you broadcasting on your profile?
Yeah, Facebook. So we're live on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. So guys, if you got any questions for Leon, definitely drop them in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them for you guys. So Leon, what is your sort of I know you have like multiple lead generation strategies, but is there like one go-to one that you go to, or is it kind of completely bespoke to your client?
So let me think about how to explain this. So when you're in business, there is a number of critical things, but the reality is that if you're not generating new leads, that means you can't generate new sales. And usually for the existing clients that you have, and I say usually, and I'm making a sweeping statement, but usually most small business owners do not have enough clients for them to get enough repeat orders or repeat business. So they can't grow their business or even think or fathom of the idea of getting rich, right? And rich might mean a number of things for different people. Some people might want to get to their first 50,000. Some people to the first 100,000, some people 250,000, a million, whatever it is. But in order to get there, the reality is that you've got to generate new clients, but also obviously keep your existing clients happy and deliver on the services. So when it comes to lead generation, what I find that a lot of people are looking for is they're looking for the magic one, the silver bullet. They're looking for this one thing that they're going to switch on at, let's say, 9 a.m. this morning, and by the time it gets to 5 p.m. in the evening, they're going to be millionaires. Yeah, probably not quite that dramatic, but the reality is that that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that. But I'm going to tell you the reality of what it means to be a success when you do generate leads and you hit your first six-figure month, or you hit that seven figures like I've helped a few of my clients to achieve. The reality is that it doesn't happen overnight, and what needs to happen are a key number of steps. Do you want me to share those with you?
Yeah.
All right, cool. It's a leading question, and I'm really dropping you into I guess the strategy of marketing, because marketing really should be curiosity. So that's why I asked you the question. Do you want me to tell? Of course you do.
That's a question, really, isn't it?
Exactly, because what happens in marketing with a lot of business owners, they don't understand that actually, who are we selling to? Yeah, most people think we're selling a product or a service. They understand that they're selling to an audience, but they don't really consider the audience. And what I mean by that is you're selling to a human being. So the best way to sell to human beings is to market to them through psychology so that you can persuade them. But most people miss this. So I'm going to give you a quick analogy. Do you know, or have you heard of people who are gamers or play on video games or PC gaming, and they're like addicted to games and they play virtually every day for hours on end? Yeah. You heard it? You heard? Yeah, cool. So if you look at that, you know, some people might look at the gaming industry and say, how can it be so big, and how can so many teenagers right through to grown men and women want to play games so much? And what they don't understand is that it's a mix of psychology and biology. Yeah. And the biology part is something called dopamine. So have you ever, people watching this right now, ever posted on Facebook or LinkedIn or any social media platform, and you put a post out, whether it's a picture, a video or something, and you're hoping, and I'm saying this, you're hoping people like it or people comment, you're almost kind of waiting to see, oh, I've got my first like yet. So that is very similar to what gamers experience, which is called you're waiting for that dopamine hit. And the dopamine hit is where you get some type of signal, and that signal in social media is a like, is a comment, is a share, like, yes, somebody likes my stuff. You may not say it out loud, but this stuff is working unconsciously, yeah, and it manifests itself consciously, because you might see a link or you might see a comment, you're like, oh, that's cool. And in the gaming industry, it's the same thing. When they're trying to get to the next level, what's happening is they're in pursuit of the next thing. Yeah. With social media, you're trying to get in front of your audience, not so that you can feel great about the likes and comments, but what you're looking for is to get to the point where you are triggering people because you understand how to get them to engage, how to get them to convert from being a social media person to being somebody who says, Rohini, I really want to speak to you about your video strategy, because I hear great things in how you simplify people's messages and take them online with low confidence to a point where they're really confident on video, and their videos convert from being just a presentation to something that transitions a cold audience to somebody who wants to buy from you now. That's what people miss when it comes to marketing and business. And so it isn't like you're looking for the silver bullet. Does anybody want to know how to go to 10,000 followers on Instagram or 10,000 followers on Facebook? You see, that kind of approach is the wrong approach, because you're trying to go for this kind of vanity metric, which is, let me show you how many people follow me. But what people miss is, it's not about that. It's how many people do you convert into customers who pay you? Because if you're in a business, you're not in the business of collecting likes. You're in the business of collecting pounds and dollars and euros. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned about the trigger point, and that being a key sort of factor in sort of influencing your buyers. But how can business owners like trigger their audience in a positive way?
Cool. So there's a many number of ways, and when I'm working with my clients, I have a couple of formulas that I use, but you've got to understand that when it comes to marketing, one of the most persuasive ways to convince a person is through story. Yeah. And if you think about stories, they're all around us. So the stories in the news, and they affect people in different ways. Some positive, but a lot more negative, but it affects people, right? There's also stories in Netflix, people who love to watch Netflix series or movies. And when the cinemas were open, we'd go and watch a blockbuster movie. See, the thing is, from a small age, most of us have come across either stories from our parents or our guardians or the people around us where they read a nursery rhyme, or they told us about, you know, different stories, even things that happened to the adults that were our guardians or parents at the time. And so from a young age, we love stories in different shapes and forms, right? And it's no different when you are communicating to your audience. And so what I teach people is to understand that first, you've got to understand what is the problem that your audience have. Yeah, because when you understand what the problem is, what you'll usually identify, and what I teach my clients is problems. There is only ever one problem that your customers have, but what they will have is many symptoms. And I'm going to use a quick analogy. So if you think about the coronavirus, yeah, that's the problem. But if you looked on the World Health Organization or the BBC, they have a list of the symptoms. Does that make sense, Rohini? Yeah,
guys, let us know in the comments if this is making sense to you. Also, if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments as well.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. You got any comments, questions, or anything's not clear as I'm going through, just let me know. But anyway, back to symptoms. So if you think about the coronavirus, people don't recognize, hey, I've got the coronavirus. What do they recognize? Hey, I've got a symptom. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what it is with your target audience. You see, most people fail to understand what are all the symptoms of what they're experiencing that my product or service fixes for them. Yeah. And once you start to understand the symptoms, what you must do is not say, hey, I understand your symptom, here's my product, buy it. What you have to do is go, I understand the symptom, my product fixes that, or my service fixes that. What story, 3 steps there, can I wrap around it to persuade people? Because remember, stories have been around for us since a young age, and we love stories. They're the most believable thing. And especially as a business owner, if you're sharing stories with integrity and honesty and truth, and obviously it makes sense, you're going to be in a better position to convince people. Which is why I love the fact that you do video, Rahini, because video is actually the most believable and persuasive medium on Facebook, especially because we're streaming on Facebook, and on LinkedIn it's major as well. And so if you can understand, not to say let me switch on Facebook Live and let me tell you about my product, let me tell you about my service, that's the wrong thing. You turn people away. See, nobody likes being sold to, but they love to buy. And that also means they buy into your story. They buy into why you do what you do. They buy into, maybe you explain how your product helped your client move from A to B, old ways to new results. Think about when you ask me what is it I do, and right at the beginning, what did I say I did with my clients? Yeah, I shared results. Yeah. Because I want you to understand that what does Leon do? No, let me tell you about what I do for my clients. It's part of Leon's story, even on this live stream. So once you understand different story angles, then you're on the first steps to understanding this is how I inject different angles, different personality, and just different things that people respond to. People like comedies, they like rom-coms, romantic films, thrillers, action. That's because people like the variety. So what I teach my clients is story angles. So you can have things like us versus them, maybe you against like a common enemy, or things that you don't like in your industry that you stand against. You can have the discovery, so something new that you've discovered, or something that is not so common knowledge within your industry. You can have before and after. So before and after is great, especially for case studies. So, here's client A before they worked with me, and here's client A after they worked with me, going from, I don't know, 5,000 a month to 20,000 a month. Yeah. Or it can be a character. So a character, I'll give you an example. If you think about movies, a lot of movies are based on a character. Maybe you embody the character for your audience as, like a leader, as somebody who is championing a message, or you've got different story angles like humor. You've got why you do what you do. So sharing more personal stories, how you got into your business, behind the scenes of your business. And there's so many different story angles. So that's the first step. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
All right. So here
in the comments if it makes sense to you.
So now that we have an idea of, right, that's how you persuade people, I guess the next step is, well, what is the format that you put it all together with, right? I'm sure you're probably asking that question as well, Rahini. Yeah. So the formula I use is something called the 5-step marketing message formula. And so it has 5 steps in it. It's very simple. So you tell a story because you get in the position of your audience psychologically, not so you can just, babble on about how great you are. You tell the story so you make your audience, the people, the target audience, the niche, you make them the hero. You take them on the journey with that story, so they almost can see themselves in the story you share, or that you share the story with the perspective that that's their desired outcome. So as you share that story, they're thinking, that's exactly what I want. So the first thing with any story is you have to have an introduction. So most people start, maybe let's say they do a live stream and they're like, just give me a few minutes. I'm waiting for a few more people to get on board. Is that an exciting introduction? Yeah.
No, I mean, when I see people do that, I always think respect the person's time and your own time by actually just with the live stream.
Which makes total sense. And so if you think about it, the other flip side is, hi guys, sorry I'm a bit late today. I'm 2 minutes over, but I'm going to get started now, so bear with me. And that's another exact.
That's a slight confidence thing as well.
There is a confidence thing, but so the thing is, when you put yourself in the picture, you take away from your audience, because you're putting yourself in the picture. Who do you put in the picture? You put your audience in, and because it's not actually about you in that respect. So when you start your introduction, you start in the middle of the action. Think about a Hollywood blockbuster movie. At the beginning of any film, there's always some dramatic thing that the whole film is based on right at the beginning. So you start in the middle of the action. And the thing is, when it comes to your marketing, whether it's a social media post, whether it's a video, whether it's a blog, whatever medium you use, even podcast, start in the juicy meat, like start where the action is. And a lot of people miss that. They miss that actually, if even if you started with the right energy, that may make up for the fact that maybe your video is going to be not as good as most, but your energy overcompensates for it. You may have been in the past to events when we were allowed to congregate and go out to events and seminars where somebody has spoken and you think, the message wasn't like super duper, but there was something about them. Their energy was amazing. And that's the thing with the introduction. Start in the middle. The second step is obviously there's got to be a confrontation. There's got to be a problem, a challenge. So as an example, if you started in the middle of the problem, in the middle of the action, right at the beginning of the introduction, you've then got to transition to, what's the actual problem? So an example would be, I'm gonna think of a couple of examples. So today I was interviewing a business owner who's been responsible for training thousands of business owners how to use their voice to actually develop their business through marketing. But the problem is, a lot of business owners, this is an example of the confrontation, a lot of business owners, they're either scared to speak up or to put themselves on stage because they're scared of what people will say about them in case people start pointing the finger or criticizing them. So that's an example of a confrontation or a problem. And then step 3 is you have to transition to a resolution. A resolution is the solution. So what I could then do using that kind of mini story is that, because most business owners are scared, what my guest understood today when I interviewed him was that he was able to take his experience as a dancer, transition that into a speaking coach, which he invested 7,000 hours in training on stage and delivering speeches around the world, to put together his speaker program. And see that speaker program, that's the solution. And then what you then do, obviously you would add a bit more kind of meat on the bones, not just be so straight up and abrupt. You then move to a call to action. So the call to action could be, so if you're a business owner right now and you are going through the challenge of, you don't know when to speak up, or you're not quite sure how to put your message across or how to use your voice as your brand, then what I'd love for you to do is to send me a message right now, or click on the link below this video right now. And when you click on the link, it will take you to a booking form where you can book in a slot for me and you to have a quick conversation. And then step 5 is scarcity. Oh, by the way, I only have 2 more slots available this week because my diary is absolutely chocker. So make sure you book in now. So what I've actually done is just broken down the 5 steps very quickly for you in that quick story. Does that make sense? And so
I was going to say, you do workshops around this in a lot more detail, don't you? Because this is just really barely scratching the surface.
I mean, this approach, it's very simple, but it's very powerful because, like I said, people are looking for, should I just go on Facebook and invite all my friends and all my family to like my page or add them to my group? It's like, that's why everything is wrong about this kind of, quick hit and the kind of get rich quick kind of mentality. And the reason for that is, again, going back to dopamine, because if you understand how people operate, what you can keep doing is bringing people back to your Netflix series, because the more you publish content, the more people like your content, they want to come back and see it again. And that's how you effectively wind people in. You build an audience, and I share this quite regularly. There's going to be a lot of times where you put content out there and you're not going to get the like, you're not going to get the comment, but you know what will happen? You'll get somebody booking in to speak to you. Some of my biggest clients never engaged on my social media content, commented, shared, nothing like that, but yet they reached out to me and paid me money, thousands. So
he was just commented a few minutes ago, and I wanted to wait a minute because I knew that you were going to drop some nuggets right there, and I'm so glad that I waited. But Sakib Aslam from LinkedIn has just asked, excellent advice, Leon. What advice can you give to someone who's selling IT services without much tech jargon?
Okay, so you know what, Sakib, you've actually just come up with your own answer, and now I'm going to break it down for you. Excellent advice, Leon. What advice can you give someone who is selling IT services without giving them too much tech jargon? You remove the tech. What you do is give them a story that you can use as almost as a metaphor. So I'm going to give you a story so you can understand how I explain why people need a marketing coach like me. So I can't just go out and say, hey, you need a marketing coach, somebody who has been able to help somebody generate £1 million, $1 million from their marketing campaigns, or somebody who's helped other people to go to 10,000 a month, a 6-figure business. That's just not going to work. But I'm going to give you a metaphor on how you can communicate better. So most people understand the principle of having a coach or a mentor. So now I'm going to give you a quick example. Richard Branson, before he launched, Virgin, his, international airline, he approached a guy called Sir Freddie Laker, and he went to him because what he wanted to understand was, how can I, really run or set up like an airline? Because he never done it before. So he went out to get this advice from a person who he knew had been involved in that industry, been involved in business. So he went to find somebody who understood the kind of industry. So let's think about another example now. Very, very simple. You got Usain Bolt, the fastest man on the planet, world records coming out of his ears for running. And most people don't understand that he was coached by a guy called Glenn Mills. Glenn Mills had never won a gold medal in his life, but he knew how to train athletes. Yeah. And so the point I'm getting to is that when you're trying to communicate your message to people, you use stories so that people understand or can connect the dots for themselves. So I've just given you 2 examples of why it's so important to have a coach. And the reason why it's so important is because both of these coaches, for Richard Branson and for Usain Bolt, they were able to see the things that these top people couldn't see themselves. They couldn't see the angles that were missing. They couldn't see that they were half a degree off with either their strategy or their approach to whatever their skill or profession was. Does that make sense, Rahini?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So here's the point that I want to get to now. I've used. Say that again. Sorry.
It's like having that sort of third eye point of view kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And so now I can use the call to action and transition from my example. So I've just used the story of 2 famous people we all know, and the fact that they had coaches. You see, what their coaches did was what I said. They were able to see the things that these top superstars couldn't see. And that's how I help business owners. I show you the things that you can't see. Yeah. And if you are looking to grow your business to 6 figures, 7 figures, that's what I have experience with. So what I did, rather than just me pushing the fact that I'm a visionary marketing coach, I used 2 examples as a story. And that's what you have to do, Sakib. You need to create stories and understand different stories of how you can relate that to IT. You see, everybody knows that they need IT. Everybody knows that IT, and whoever your audience is important. But what you have to do is show them through the example of a story. And that's how you drop the jargon. Because when you show a story or when you talk about a story, it doesn't have to involve whether it's, I don't know, laptops, networks, security, viruses, all that stuff. You don't have to talk in that language to convince somebody. You have to capture their attention.
But then does that mean that you have to be creative to tell a story? Because a lot of business owners, they're very academic. They're not like creatives like you and me. So does that mean they have to
the reality is that every business owner is creative, and what happens is that skill has simply been suppressed, because nobody can go into business without being creative, because they had the initiative to say, you know what, I won't be paid by somebody else 9 to 5. I can create my own way. Yeah. And when it comes to marketing is something that you can learn as a skill. Yeah. But what most people want to do is pay a company, like a digital marketing company, or pay somebody else. And they want to kind of, the best way for me to put it is abdicate their responsibility. But the more that you increase your skill to know strategically, that doesn't mean that you've got to do all the nitty gritty things, but the more you understand it, the more you're entrenched in it, the more success you find. Because if your marketing is growing and your skills around marketing is improving, but you can place team members in place, if you've got a bigger business, surely your business is going to be financially better off. But what happens is a lot of people say, you know what, I don't have time for that. I have to deliver this product or service. I want to pay somebody else. And then they wonder why their marketing isn't working. It's because they stopped taking responsibility of that part. So I don't believe that, not everybody's creative. I just believe they don't spend enough time on it.
Yeah, a lot of business owners, especially when a few years ago, I mean, I was with a very big company. I was making their videos for them, and their sort of first point was they knew that they wanted to expand, but they didn't quite have the budget to do the expansion that they needed. And the first thing that they cut was the marketing. And I was like, no, guys, that's the first thing you need to be investing in.
you know what's so crazy, and this comes back to the point of understanding business development and running a business. This isn't even anything to do with marketing. When you look at your business and you think, right, we've got to cut our marketing, and then you start, and I'll go back to the point of what I said earlier. If you've got a business, most businesses, and I say most, 99% of businesses rely on new clients coming in. So if you cut back on your marketing, you're cutting back on the opportunity to grow, even in times like we're going through right now. Yeah, we're unofficially in a recession. It's just that it hasn't happened for 6 months, but we're in a recession. Yeah, there has been a massive contraction of money flowing throughout the world.
Yeah,
and so one of the greatest things that anybody could do right now is double down on being more visible. So like doing the this show tonight with you, you interview me as a guest. This is important. Putting videos out like you help people to do, Rahini. Just putting your message out there. Double down on it if you want to grow your business. And just think about it. If you can grow your business now, imagine when the tide goes back out and things are on the up, you will have the head start on your competition too.
Exactly. So in a nutshell, then, what you're basically saying is use stories to sell your services, and that could potentially add an extra zero to your turnover.
100%. Like, think about every successful marketing campaign. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. when Apple released, and this is known, and if I get the dates wrong, I apologize, but I'm just trying to remember. When Apple released their advert in 1984, which was to basically show how they were different through, and you can see the video on YouTube. And they show a video of all these other people who were drones, basically people who use PC. And they came out with this ad that showed how they were different. Nothing to do with computers, nothing to do with what's inside the freaking thing that everybody's going to use. They told a story, and the story was very simple. Us versus them. Be like Apple cool, or be like PC drones, boring and grey. And when you understand that these are the biggest companies that we look up to using story, but when it comes to small business, people say, oh, that won't work for me, because they miss the context. It's not about the size of your story. It's about you putting the story out to attract the audience that you can get in front of right now. And so the more you understand story, the more you understand story has such a powerful psychological way to convert people, to persuade people, the more you stop overlooking it.
Yeah, definitely. Just what is the psychology behind stories and people buying? Because I've heard this time and time again, and I know this for myself as well, that facts tell, but stories sell. But why do stories sell so much?
For the very reason that emotions are involved. So if you think about the way people buy, they buy with emotion and they justify with logic. Yeah, they buy with emotion and they justify with logic. So for anybody out there saying, for instance, you put out your marketing is pretty much, hey, get our service, £100. You keep pushing the product and the price. You're pushing the logic first. So you're not going to convince anybody because they're going to buy with emotion. But when you use the story, you use emotion. That's why I kind of use the example of Hollywood blockbusters, Netflix, that kind of stuff. People buy into stories like emotionally, unconsciously, and consciously. That's why you'll see You know, for instance, like if I'm watching a romantic film with my fiance, she'll get to tears, guaranteed. Yeah, because she buys into that emotion, the whole thing, which is awesome. Um, and when you think about marketing, I'm going to explain to you now. Your audience are going to buy from you when you identify why they will buy from you. Yeah. And the reason why people will buy from you is because of the things that they're either in fear of happening, so things that haven't happened yet, or the challenges and problems that they're going through, or things that they're passionate about. So if they're in fear or they're in a place of passion, what is fear and passion? It's emotion, right? Yeah. You can't get that without story. What you will get is people who say, "Oh, I liked your video today, good tips, but I'm not buying anything from you." Or, "I liked your video today because I know you, but I'm still not buying from you," because they haven't clicked on your link, they haven't sent you a message. And then people are wondering, this social media really doesn't work for me. I don't understand why people aren't buying. I'm putting out a message like 3 times a day, like the experts told me to do. I'm doing a quote, I'm putting a quote out, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Instagram. Nobody's buying. It's because they're doing the motion, but they're not following the principles of actually persuading people through a story and really getting to understand what is it that will move people to take action on whatever they have as a product or service.
Yeah. A couple of companies I can think of that are brilliant at telling stories is Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah. You know what? I saw somebody shared a picture today. I think it was on Instagram, one of my friends actually. And yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And so it must be going around, must be viral at the moment. And I saw it because there was I think Pepsi had really, and I don't know if there's any truth in it. I just saw the picture. It could be just somebody created it for all I know, Rahini. I would check it out. I always check my sources, but I'm going to share the story nonetheless. So there's a picture of Pepsi, literally a can, wearing a cloak that it has got the Coke logo on there, and it was released at Halloween. And obviously the cloak is synonymous with a vampire, so they were kind of using it as like Coke being something scary. And then Coke reused the image, and they take the kind of metaphor of the cloak to say that everybody wants to be a hero, meaning that Pepsi look at Coke as their hero, yeah, like a superhero cape. And so for me, the story even in that, because you can't jump from capes at Halloween and capes as heroes without even knowing that there's horror and there's superheroes, right? And so, the biggest companies always show you, but it's being able to take that information, what you see, and just think, oh, that's cool, yeah, and then really understand what's going on psychologically. But most people, they don't understand that, and that's what I help them, business owners, to understand. I have very formulaic approach to doing these things, and it works time and time again, because what you're dealing with is human persuasion.
Absolutely, yeah. It's that psychology of buying again. It's the exact same sort of formula, if you like, but just for a different company each time, isn't it? So we talked about sort of strategy and a little bit about content as well, but let's be realistic about the time frames. So if somebody starts saying, I want to start sharing stories as part of my marketing campaign now, realistically, when are they likely to see their return on investment, and how consistent do they have to be?
So return on investment's tricky.
Yeah.
Because most people don't understand how much profit they make from the product or service. Yeah. They look at an investment in marketing and don't understand. And I learned this from one of my mentors, Todd Brown from America, amazing marketer. He specializes in copywriting, but he's world renowned. And the thing is, most business owners, they look at this term ROI, return on investment, and they haven't got the foggiest clue about their own numbers. Yeah. And most business owners, and I keep using these sweeping statements because it is most business owners, they haven't really considered what the price of their product and what the value it has and what the profit it has in it. And so they will look at £500 and say, if I spend £500 or I spend £1,000 or if I spend £5,000, what am I going to get back? Yeah. And the reality is that if I say to them, well, how much profit do you get out of one of your services and how many of those do you need to sell? And it's at this point where I really start to double down with people and get them to really understand this part of business, because this isn't marketing. This is just business 101. So Now I'm going to explain ROI. If you want to get straight to getting customers, yeah, you need to be very clear on obviously what your product price is, what your profit is. So therefore you'll understand how much of your budget you need to spend before you get a client. If you want to do it really quickly, you can fire up some Facebook ads and by tomorrow you can have leads. Yeah. Whether you get ROI is another conversation, because are you selling a physical product? Are you selling a digital product? Are you selling consulting? Yeah, and they're all different. So for instance, if you're selling a digital product, well, maybe it's something that you can get to a sale very quickly if your, let's say, your order page and your landing page is optimized. Yeah, because you might send people there to do your marketing, but maybe you're missing things on the landing pages. Maybe you've put all the logical features, but you don't understand even what you need to put on the page as benefits to emotionally trigger people into buying your product, right?
Yeah.
And then if you get into, I'm just going to keep it easy, if you get into the kind of services side, consulting, coaching, professional services, that kind of stuff, well, how do you convert people? I guess on the phone. So then you're going to get into the remits of, well, how good are you at closing sales on the phone? How good are you at closing high value sales on the phone? And these are all the variables that most business owners don't know. They don't know themselves, and they don't consider, because it isn't so much about what's the ROI. What it is about is to identify what are the key performance indicators of your business. So for instance, I use one formula, and I shared it in my book that I wrote called More Leads, More Clients, available on Amazon. And this formula is called the 5 Ways Formula, and it was first published by a guy called Brad Sugars. He's a top marketing coach from a top coach, business coach from Action Coach. Yeah. And so the formula is called the 5 Ways Formula. And I will share it with you. And if maths isn't your strong point, don't worry about it. Just listen to what I'm saying. And then watch this video back on replay again. So yeah, leads. So how many people you attracting that say, maybe I'm interested in that thing? Leads times conversion rate equals how many customers you end up with. Yeah. So leads multiplied by conversion rate. So you can affect how many leads you get into your business by pumping more time or money into your marketing, right? The conversion rate you can affect, but you can only affect that by optimizing a page or improving your skills as a salesperson. Yeah. That's how you define how many customers you have. Customers multiplied by how many times they buy from you, let's say in a year. Yeah. So if you only sell one kind of consulting thing to that person in a year, multiplied by the average order value equals your turnover, your revenue. Yeah, your revenue multiplied by your costs, so your margin equals how much profit you make in your business. Yeah, most people don't know those numbers, Rahini. So for me to talk about ROI, you've got to understand those numbers, because you might say, you know what, it's going to cost me £2,000 to get my client, but my clients pay me £6,000, so I make £4,000 profit, so I can go £2,000 deep per month with my ads. Whereas other people will look at it and say, whoa, £2,000. Yeah, because they have no context of those numbers. They have no context of, actually, I'm doing this game because I can put £2,000 in and get 4 back out. Yeah. And when you start to play business that way, you understand that it is a business game of numbers. And a lot of business owners, unfortunately, they play to a certain level, but when the numbers look a bit scary, it's just because they've injected fear rather than the logics of what business is.
Yeah. And there's a certain element of like personal growth within that as well. It's about confidence of not only 100%. Basically just ask for more, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's now you're getting into sales, asking for more. You're also getting into the fact that you've got to be prepared to step up. Like, you know, I've spent near enough about £100,000 on coaches over the past 5 years for me. And it's because I knew internally that I had issues that I wasn't aware of. You know, like I gave the examples of seeing the angles, seeing the things that you can't see. Excuse me. And so for me, it was kind of like, I got to a point in business where I had my own marketing agency like 5 years ago, and I was working damn hard, like super hard, like hard, like freaking any hour, all hours of the day. I'm working, I'm doing it. And my business isn't growing. And I'm like, something's wrong here. I'm missing something. I've read books. I've got books on my shelf over there that I had at the time, but I'm missing something. And what I realized is that I'd never gone to, like, I went to uni. I got a degree, by the way. I'd never gone where somebody truly knew what it was like to run a successful business, and me approach them and say, help me. And that was the part where I realized, like, things weren't working in my life the way that I wanted them to, because I didn't have the information, I didn't have the knowledge. And so it was at that point that I turned to my first coach. Yeah. And she ran an 8-week program, and I paid a lot of money at the time. I didn't have, it was £5,000 to be on that program. And in those 8 weeks, I learned actually what I was missing. And it was almost like I had the chess pieces on the board, but now I knew how those pieces moved on the board. Yeah. And I guess that's probably the key thing that you've got to get to as a business owner. You've got to know that actually you're missing the moves, but you've got to be in a position to say, I admit I don't know or have all the answers. Because I guarantee you, every successful entrepreneur you look up to, the people we put on a pedestal and say, amazing, you will see a list of mentors, the people who've supported them, because they were willing to say, I don't have all the answers, but I want to get to that end result, and I will do everything in my power to make it happen. And so from a business owner point of view, the way you get confident is, yes, when you see your results improve, and when you have that support of a cultural mentor. And that's why I passionately believe in it so much, because as a marketing coach, some people say, hey, Leon, you're like a business coach, but I specifically say marketing, because I come at people from that part of their business, because I know that actually once you unlock the marketing part of the business, everything else opens up, because now you start to understand, I can get clients, but now I can focus on sales, I can focus on operations, and how you truly scale things up. Because people do get confused. They think, let's scale up marketing, and don't understand that it has an effect on your sales, and it has an effect on your operations and how you do grow. And so coming back to your point now about confidence and being able to ask for more and stuff like that, that's all to do with kind of your own psychology and willingness to trust in somebody saying, you know what, here's how you raise your prices, and here's where your value is in this, so that they're not just looking around at competition and saying, well, they're cheaper, or maybe I should just match them on price. And I've got countless examples of where, I'll give you one example where I had one client who was, just to give you some context, they put a product out, a service out into the market that was £1,800, like not huge, but big money to some people. Every other competitor, and I'm talking national competitors, was £1,200. They were £600 more. Yeah. And they were able to put that product out to market where people were kind of falling over themselves to pay that money. The reason being, what I did with my client, I showed him how to display the value that was in his program and what made it different to the competitors and even the national competition. And even as a small business, he was able to grow his business to multi-six figures just based on the principle of understanding value and trusting in the words of somebody who was guiding him.
Yeah, you've just touched on a really, really important factor there of leading with value. So many people lead with like what their product or service does, but the value element in it is how it fixes the problem that your target audience is having. And this is what I constantly say to people as well. I say to my clients all the time, like, how is what you have going to solve a problem in the marketplace right now? That's your nugget right there.
Yeah, it is, and there's layers to that, because one big, like for instance, on one of my main coaching programs, I have like an 8-week coaching program, and it's basically just for people to dip their toes in the water to understand, this is what it's like to be supported by a coach and to know a clear strategy to get clients. And I have one specific training on there on how to create an offer. And even if you understand value, most people get it wrong, because they don't understand how then to put an offer into the marketplace that is truly different, that is truly something that touches the nerve of the pain that people are going through, for them not to simply say, well, how much is it, and I can get it cheaper down the road, but to truly come from a place of, I need that. It's almost like a no-brainer offer that will just put people in this place of being compelled to at least speak to you. And so that's why I say there are so many layers, and that's why sometimes and I'll say sometimes, quite often, you can be in business and think like, when is it going to happen to me? Honestly, I can't express to you enough where I've been in a situation like, when am I going to hit this 6 figures? When am I going to, get my first client to 1 million so I can say, hey, I'm a 7-figure coach and I've helped people to do that. You know what I mean? And this is the frustration of, if you aren't seeking help and if you aren't reaching out to people, and some of these people I was connected to, and I used to be in this place where I'm like, I can't ask them for help, like with friends, like it's going to seem weird. Yeah. And then I've simply got to the point where, look, do I want to get this goal? Do I want to make it happen? Or do I want to put my ego and pride in the place of just simply saying to that person, I need your help. Let's talk about your service and pay them the money that they ask for. And I've done that. And over the years, I've had exceptional advice from the people that I've sought out. Some people weren't quite what I expected, but I learned about making the right buying decisions from the people who I wanted to work with as well. And then out of that, I've then found amazing coaches and people who've supported me. And then, that effectively, I guess, I turned to being a coach because I recognized that I needed a coach. And that's why I gave the examples earlier. There's a lot of successful people we look up to, like Oprah Winfrey. Her mentor was Maya Angelou. Serena Williams, she was coached by Tony Robbins on mindset. There's so many examples of people that, if you look at their lives, you'll understand that actually you do need to ask for help, yeah, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. That's what accelerates your journey, and that's how you go further forward.
Exactly. I mean, one of my business mentors, and he's going to laugh when he sees this, and I'm seeing him do it as well on the phone. Like, somebody's asking him for the price of what he charges, and he just completely ignored the question about the price and just gone on about the value that he adds. And he does that until he's got a yes out of them. So it's like he sold them on the value first before he sold them on the price. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about sort of tapping into people's emotions, sharing that story with them, because people don't buy based on the price, no matter what they say. They buy based on how you make them feel.
There's some truth in that. If you go into the pound shop, you're probably not going to worry about the price, right? So, I think the other thing as well is being clear on, I guess, the circumstances and the situation. I know there's a lot of businesses right now and business owners who, for instance, are more cautious with spending. Like, you may have the value that they want right now, but you got to understand the deep-rooted psychological challenges people are going through in order to exchange cash with, the very thing that's going to help them. And so you do have to understand context of the situation, the environment that you're in. People are taking a bit longer to make those decisions right now because of the circumstances. And so for me, yes, it is about value, but it's also understanding of, those variables, like what's going on with people. And if you can create the kind of the irresistible offer, yeah, and it's like a superior irresistible offer, that's what you've got to come up with. That's where you'll at least get people to the point where they do want to speak to you. And that's probably half the battle for, especially if you're in professional consulting services, coaching, that type of stuff at the moment. If you're kind of like a traditional business, then it will still apply for you. And there's different things you can implement either into your marketing messages, your websites, your landing pages, all those types of things. And eventually it filters down into, like you just said about your mentor, when you get on the sales call, because if you truly understand that product and you understand it from the perspective of your audience, the value, the benefits, how it will help people get over the emotional challenges that they're going through in order to make that buying decision, you put yourself in just a whole different picture compared to your competition.
Exactly. Guys, we're going to wrap it up now, but Leon, if somebody did want to get in touch with you about any of your services, where can they find you?
Cool. You can find me on Facebook. Just send me a message. If you're on LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn and just drop me a message. Just, hey, I saw you on Rahini's Live Wire Media show talking about adding another 0 to your turnover or revenue. Can you tell me more? Just do that. I'm the only Leon Street in existence because I have that special E at the end of my last name. And so, you can't not find me.
Amazing, guys. Have a great evening. Leon, really, really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me on board. It's been enjoyable. And thanks, guys, for your questions and watching.